The Brewers and the Cardinals are in a very important battle for the Central Division in the National League, and they have a 3-game set coming up this weekend. I will have more on that today. The Twins and Guardians have a battle for the American League Central. I have a look ahead for the Guardians and the Blue Jays today. The NASCAR Cup Series goes to Richmond, Virginia this weekend for a 400-lap race. I'll give you my take on that. And there are 2 drivers that still have an outside chance of making the Cup playoff line. And the wild card races in Major League Baseball are so close, it's not even funny anymore. And the Big Ten and college football are about to take a big turn here in a couple of years. I will have more on that today, and we will start the show today right after this. Everybody, it is now time for the Scott Manning YouTube Friday Sports Machine. I am so very thankful to have you guys with me here on this Friday. We got a lot to talk about here in about the next 20 minutes to half hour or so that I'm going to be here. I'm going to just jump right into it, and we're going to go ahead and get the show on the road. The St. Louis Cardinals have a half-game lead over the Milwaukee Brewers going into the weekend, but this is a very important weekend. The Cardinals and the Brewers have a 3-game set starting tonight. This is a huge weekend. This could be a very important battle to see how the National League Central goes the rest of the way. It's August 12th. The postseason will be here before you know it. But we have a very important weekend coming up for these 2 ball clubs, and it starts tonight. Here is tonight's, now as all you know, before I get into the pitching matchups, let me back up. Before we get into the pitching matchups, you guys know about old Goldie. He's hitting .332 OBP, 415. Christian Yelich, he's hitting .259 and an OBP of 364. Old Goldschmidt knows how to hit. 27 home runs, 87 RBIs. But Rowdy Tellez, he's hitting .239 with 23 home runs and 71 RBIs. Could this be the mismatch? We'll have to wait and see. This 3-game set is at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And tonight's pitching matchup is an interesting one. And it might be one you may be enjoying tonight. For the Milwaukee Brewers, the Brewers will be sending Eric Lauer to the mound. He has an 8-3 record with a 3.59 ERA and 111 strikeouts to his credit. And who will he be facing? Jordan Montgomery, making his second start as a Cardinal. He has a 4-3 record on the season with a 3.53 ERA and 98 strikeouts to his credit. I love this matchup for a lot of reasons. You got Montgomery versus Lauer, the new guy for St. Louis who used to be a Yankee, against Eric Lauer. I'm going to enjoy this one tonight. Then on Saturday, you think the Lauer-Montgomery matchup tonight is going to be interesting? Here's the matchup for tomorrow. Corbin Burns will go to the mound for the Brewers. He has an 8-5 record with a 2.45 ERA and 175 strikeouts to his credit. And who will he be facing for the Cardinals? The St. Louis Cardinals are sending none other than Adam Wainwright to the mound. Okay, he has an 8-8 record, but he does have a 3.42 ERA and 108 strikeouts to his credit. This is going to be the one that could make or break the season. This is the matchup that I'm interested in. And then on Sunday, we had the two great matchups on Friday and Saturday. The Sunday matchup is kind of a lackluster. Aaron Ashby's going to the mound. He only has a 2-10 record with a 4.32 ERA. But the only good thing that's going for him is he has 103 strikeouts to his credit. And the St. Louis Cardinals will be sending Miles Mikolas to the mound. He has an 8-9 record with a 3.50 ERA and 108 strikeouts to his credit. Folks, I'm going to come right out and say this 3-game set is going to be a great weekend in St. Louis. The Battle of the Beer Cities. Miller Brewing versus Anheuser-Busch. Only this time, this 3-game set is in St. Louis. Can the Cardinals? This is the same Cardinals team that struggled against the Rockies. Okay, they played out in Denver, Rocky Mountain High. But keep in mind, go back to last weekend. This was the same Cardinals team that swept the Yankees at Busch Stadium. Keep that in mind. Now, the Brewers have had some issues during the season. They're now 1 game back of a wild card spot after their struggles. This could be a make or break series between these two ball clubs. If you think about this, playoff placings are up. The postseason placings are up for grabs. There's a lot at stake this weekend. You guys need to understand. This isn't just about a great weekend for baseball between two rival teams. No. Their respective managers are making their pitch for the postseason. That's why you're seeing Lauer versus Montgomery tonight, Burns versus Wainwright tomorrow. But then they save the worst for the worst on Sunday. The first 2 ball games of this 3-game set could tell the story. Either someone's going to take 2 out of 3 or go for the sweep. The Brewers now are in a must-sweep situation. You know what? Actually, think about it. Both teams are in a must-sweep situation. Whoever takes this series, this 3-game set, they got to go for the sweep. Either way. Otherwise, it's going to be a long road back for either the Brewers or the Cardinals. Everybody knows what's at stake this weekend in the National League Central. I'm going to be watching this game. I'm going to be watching the game tonight with special interest because everybody realizes there is a lot, and I mean a lot, at stake tonight. Starting tonight and then going into tomorrow. The first 2 games could tell the story how it's going to go. That's all there is to it. The Cleveland Guardians have a very important 3-game set against the Toronto Blue Jays this weekend. The Minnesota Twins are a game and a half back. They're playing the Los Angeles Angels. I'm not going to worry too much about that. But the Guardians and the Blue Jays, both teams are fighting for playoff, are fighting to get into the postseason. The Toronto Blue Jays right now own the first wild card. They actually own a wild card spot. I'll get to that here in a few minutes. The Guardians have a 1.5 game lead over the Minnesota Twins. They have a lot more to play for. And I think it's going to show in the pitching matchups in just a second on those. But before we get to those, the tail of the tape in the hitting department could really tell the story on how this weekend's going to go. Andres Gimenez. This guy's hitting 304 for the Guardians right now, and he's got an OBP of 367. He's a very dangerous individual. And Jose Ramirez, Mr. Cleveland himself, he's hitting 280 with 21 home runs and 88 RBIs on this season. For the Toronto Blue Jays, you got Lourdes Gurriel Jr. This guy's hitting 309. How come he's not getting some attention? And he's got an OBP of 361. Kind of a little mixed mess there. And, of course, you got Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He's hitting .287 with 23 home runs and 68 RBIs. That's the tail of the tape in the hitting department. Very interesting. But now, let's get to the most important stuff. The pitching matchups. And we got a couple of really good pitching matchups starting tonight. Tonight for the Cleveland Guardians, Cal Quantrill is going to go to the mound. He has a 6-5 record with a 3.88 ERA and a 79 strikeouts to his credit. Who will he be facing tonight? Jose Berrios. Yes, he has an 8-4 record, but I got a problem. He's got a 5.19 ERA, but he does have 107 strikeouts to offset it. Jose, you're facing Gimenez, you're facing Ramirez, you're facing Stephen Kwan, and some of the no-name Guardians that have actually all of a sudden made names for themselves. This is going to be an interesting matchup tonight. Then on Saturday, the Cleveland Guardians will be sending Tristan McKenzie to the mound. Okay, he only has an 8-8 record, but he does have a 3.16 ERA and 121 strikeouts to make up for it. Then you got the Blue Jays. They will be sending Mitch White to the mound. He has a 1-3 record with a 3.86 ERA and 49 strikeouts to his credit. He hasn't made very many starts. That's why you only see the 1-3 record. Then on Sunday, you got a pretty good matchup. Shane Bieber, he has a 7-6 record. He'll be going to the mound for the Guardians on Sunday. A 7-6 record with a 3.21 ERA, 134 strikeouts to his credit. And the Toronto Blue Jays will be sending Kevin Guzman to the mound. Okay, he might only have an 8-8 record, but he does have a 2.91 ERA and 137 strikeouts to his credit. Those are the pitching matchups for this 3-game set. Tonight's matchup, Quantrill versus Berrios. Got to get the nod to Quantrill because Berrios' ERA is a little high. The Saturday matchup, too close to call. I know, but I'm going to go with the Guardians because of Tristan McKenzie. He's made more starts this season. The Sunday matchup, another TC. At the end of the day, I've got to go with the Guardians' Shane Bieber because he's got the experience and he knows how to get it done. The Blue Jays and the Guardians, both teams are fighting to get into the postseason. There's a lot at stake here, too. Now, I know the Guardians have a 1.5 lead over the Minnesota Twins. And the Twins are playing the Los Angeles Angels. I'm not going to worry too much about that right now. I'm not going to worry too much. This is the 3-game set that's got my attention. And everybody in Cleveland, everybody in Toronto knows it. Because right now, the Blue Jays have the first wild card. They would get into the postseason on virtue of having the first wild card spot. So if you think there's a lot of you think this is a no-name matchup, you're dead wrong. This is going to be a great series. This is going to be a great 3-game set. Excuse my partiality towards Cleveland. Because I've been a Cleveland guy all my life. But the truth is this. A lot at stake. Everybody knows what's at stake this weekend. And it's a big time. But the truth of the matter is this. We're going to have a lot of fun this weekend. But if you think about the wild cards in both the American and National Leagues, it's very close. And speaking of the wild card, I want to take a few minutes to talk about that. Right now, if you look at the wild card in the American League, the Toronto Blue Jays have the first wild card spot. The Seattle Mariners have the second spot. The Tampa Bay Rays would be the last team in because remember, the top 3 teams in the National League in the wild card race get a wild card spot. And can you believe, of all the teams in the world, the Baltimore Orioles have a shot at getting into the postseason? They're only half a game back in the wild card race. And the Minnesota Twins after their struggles this past weekend, and after losing 2 straight against the Red Hot Dodgers, find themselves a game back in the wild card race. The Guardians getting a sweep of the Tigers really put them in a hole. That's why the Guardians Blue Jays series is so important. Minnesota is a little down right now. The Twins could possibly get back into the lead of the division because as a result of their 2 losses against the Dodgers and the Guardians doing their thing and sweeping the Tigers, it put the Twins in a hole. Right now, they're on the outside looking in. Everybody realizes how important that is. And if somebody were to tell me that the Baltimore Orioles would be a half game out after giving away Trey Mancini, I wouldn't have believed it. But they're still on the outside looking in, but they're still almost there. And that's the bottom line. But in the National League wildcard race, this is where it gets crazy. The Atlanta Braves hold the top wildcard spot in the National League playoff race. Despite struggling against the Mets and despite the fact that the Mets are just pulling away in the National League, the Braves are still holding on to that top wildcard spot. The Philadelphia Phillies have the second wildcard spot. Because the Phillies, no one's talked about them. They're starting to play better now. And the San Diego Padres, they're kind of going in the wrong direction, if you ask me. But the Milwaukee Brewers, their struggles this past weekend and their struggles this week may have just led them to be on the outside looking in. A 3-game set against the Brewers could really turn things around. I think that's what most people need to understand. That's why the Cardinals-Brewers series is so important. Because the winner of this 3-game set could be back in the playoff race, and the other one could be on the outside looking in. That's why I'm saying the Cardinals-Brewers series is the most important of all. And that's the truth. I'm not going to sit here and lie about it. Everybody knows what's at stake this weekend. All right. I'm not going to talk about baseball anymore today. But we got some more stuff we need to talk about. The NASCAR Cup Series is going to be at Richmond. It's going to be at Richmond this weekend. It's a 3:00 race Sunday on the USA Network. Last Sunday at Michigan, Kevin Harvick broke a 65 race winless streak by picking up a win in the Michigan race. His drought is over, but the best part of the weekend is when his young daughter Piper grabbed the checkered flag, and she got to take a ride with Daddy in the race car en route to victory lane. That was the highlight of the weekend, and that's just precious. I'm sorry. That was the best moment of the weekend for me last weekend. But now, that was last weekend. Here's this coming weekend. We've only got about 4 races to go before the Cup playoff cutoff. Right now, I have 2 drivers, Ryan Blaney and Martin Truex Jr., 16th and 17th in the points. They're trying to get in. They're both on the outside looking in. Ryan Blaney, if he can break a winless drought this weekend in Richmond, he can become the 16th different winner of the season. Martin Truex Jr., he's trying to get himself in. He's trying to get himself a spot in the Cup playoff race. Here's what needs to happen. Ryan Blaney, if he can do well at Richmond, if he can win the race, he's in. Martin Truex Jr., he's in. But the question now becomes, what if we have 17 winners, 17 different winners during the season? What happens then? Do we have 17 drivers in the playoffs? Or do we go the route of who has the most points, who has the most stage points, who has the most points? Then we'll make a decision from there. it becomes real interesting. We'll see what happens after Richmond. But remember, August 27th, the final race of the regular season at Daytona. It's going to be fun. And that's all there is to it. All right. I've talked about everything I wanted to talk about today that's so important. But now, we move to another story. As many of you have seen by now, ESPN and the Big Ten are getting a divorce. Yes, I did not stutter. ESPN and the Big Ten are getting a divorce. The Big Ten has decided to go the route of going to CBS and or NBC for their college football coverage starting in 2024. And for me personally, I think it's a great move by the Big Ten because all ESPN has done is kiss the rumps of the SEC, and that's all there is to it. But I dropped a few. I actually posted something on Facebook the other day at the Ohio State site. You get I'm a Buckeye fan through and through, and a few other of my sports sites that I follow on my Facebook page. I gave 3 reasons why it could be good for the Big Ten. Number one, you know it, ESPN, they're in bed with the SEC, with the Southeast Conference. That's all there is to it. Number 2, Fox, to me, Fox has the best football coverage anywhere. Their pregame show is one of the best. Okay, I know some people say Gus Johnson is annoying. He can't be here and there. But all in all, I would much rather listen to Gus Johnson than Chris Fowler or Kirk Herbstreit. ESPN has this habit of kissing up to the Southeast, to the SEC. They've tried to manipulate the college football playoff system. They've tried so hard. And they've treated the Big Ten like dirt. And everybody knows it. So this move for the Big Ten to get away from ESPN is a good move, in my honest opinion. Because think about it. Fox has the better coverage. They've got the better pregame show. They do. I would much rather watch Urban Meyer. I would much rather watch the Fox guys because they always have they get the big noon game out of the Big Ten, and it's usually a dandy, and that's all there is to it. They know Fox knows how to get it done when it comes to college football. They know how to get it done. The first time I saw the Michigan Ohio State game on Fox back in 2017, it was actually well worth the watching. It really was. I'm not gonna lie to you. Big Ten Conference, you made a smart move by getting away from ESPN, or should I say ESSECPN. I shouldn't sound like that, I'm sorry, but I can't lie. I'm actually telling the truth. And that's all there is to it. The college football season starts here in a couple weeks. We have NFL preseason action starting this weekend. It's going to be a great weekend, not just for the pros with the preseason, but we got college football coming up here in a couple weeks. We'll see how the first preseason we'll see what happens when the preseason rankings come out. But I am going to make one bold prediction right now before I go. And that bold prediction is Ohio State is going to get their revenge against the team up north in the horseshoe. This year, the team up north's got to come to our house. And we're getting our revenge. And we're going to shut Jim Harbaugh up. And we're going to send him packing. And that is my bold prediction for today. Okay, folks, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. But I want to thank you guys so much for being with me here on this weekend. We please go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. My name is Scott Manning. All you have to do is type my name, scroll down, look for this pretty face, click subscribe, and you will see all of the sports shows I have done so far. I want to thank you guys so much for being with me here on this Friday. And as we close the show today, I would like to leave you with another Buckeye favorite. On behalf of the Ohio State University Buckeyes. Thank you guys so much. You guys have a great day, and God bless. Goodbye, everybody. And I